Hello friends, welcome back, and if you are new to our channel, thank you for stopping by. Well, today's video is about a beautiful knitting pattern for ladies cardigan or babies cardigan. So for this pattern we need stitches in the multiple of 6 plus 5, for which I have taken 18 stitches plus 5, that is 23. So we will be beginning now. Now starting off with the first row, that's the edge stitch, and then followed by 3 number of knit. The first stitch is the edge stitch, after that 3 number of knit. Then we are going to work 3 number of purl. Again 3 number of knit. This is the sequence that we will be repeating. Now 3 number of purl, turning the yarn, 3 number of knit and 3. Okay, yarn forward, 3 number of purl, 1 2 and 3. Yarn backwards, 3 number of knit, 1 2 3, and we have 1 stitch extra in the left. That too is going to be a knit. So our first row is complete. Now moving on to the second row. The first is the edge stitch, and then we are going to work 3 number of purl. Here we will be working just 3 purl and 3 knit as per the pattern demands. This is 3 number of knit. Now yarn forward, we will see we need to work purl out there, that is the curls are there, and this is the V, so we need to work the knit stitch. So 3 knit, yarn forward, 3 number of purl, yarn backwards, again 3 number of knit. We just have to slightly pull our work now, and in the end working the 3 number of purl, 1 stitch extra, which is the edge stitch that is also going to be worked with a purl. Now moving on to the third row. Third row is also very simple. The first is the edge stitch followed by 3 number of knit, yarn forward, 3 number of purl, yarn backwards, 3 number of knit. Here we'll just look at the stitches. If it's the curly stitch, we are going to work the purl. If it is the V stitch, we are going to work the knit. Now yarn forward, 3 number of purl, yarn backwards, 3 number of knit. Now 1 stitch is extra, that is the edge stitch, and we are going to work a knit. That's it. Now moving on to the fourth row. First stitch is the edge stitch, and we just slip it off. Then we are working 3 number of purl. Now again 3 number of knit. We'll just look at the stitch, and then we'll do, if it's a curly thing, then we are going to work a purl. If it is a V straight of stitch, V stitch, then we are going to work a knit. Now 3 number of purl, 3 number of knit. Now again yarn forward, 3 number of purl, 1 2 3, and the edge stitch is also going to be a purl. So this finishes our fourth row. This is how it is looking, straight and simple. Now this is the fifth row. The first stitch we do a knit, that is the edge stitch. Yarn forward, please watch carefully. We are going to slip 1 stitch off and then work the 2 stitches together. The tension has to be regular. Now the slipped stitch we are going to pass over it. Again yarn forward, we are going to work 3 number of knit, 1 2 and 3, and again yarn forward, slip the stitch. The first stitch is slipped off into the right needle, working the 2 stitches together, and the slipped stitch will be passed through the stitch ahead of it. Now again yarn forward. We will be working 3 number of knit, yarn forward. We are slipping the stitch off and working the 2 stitches together, after which we'll be passing this slipped stitch over the stitch which is just ahead of it, as I am doing right now, or the way I had shown you before. And the last stitch is going to be a knit, that is the edge stitch. So this completes our 5th row. Moving on to the 6th row, the first stitch I slip it off, that is the edge stitch, and then I am working 3 number of knit. That is, I am working knit on top of the stitches that were purled earlier, and then yarn forward. I am going to work 3 number of purl, yarn backwards, 3 number of knit. Just after the twisting of the pattern has been done, not twisting actually, the shifting of the stitches has been done, we have to be careful while working on the wrong side, because there are increased stitches which we must not let off. See, that means where the shifting of the pattern has taken place, on top of that we are working purl, and on top of the points where there were 3 number of purl, we are working 3 number of knit. 1, 2 and 3 knit. Now again yarn forward, 3 number of purl, yarn backwards, 3 number of knit. 1, 2, 3, and the edge stitch is going to be a purl. So this completes our 6th row. See, our first set of pattern is already showing. Moving on to the 7th row, first is a slip stitch, then 3 number of purl. Now turning the yarn backwards, 3 number of knit. Now the simple step starts again, 3 number of purl and 3 number of knit. Now if you notice, if you look at the pattern carefully, you will see that we are working the purls on top of the knits, and we are working 3 knits on top of the purls that we had worked earlier. Now towards the edge or the end, 3 number of purl, and the last stitch is going to be a knit. So this completes our 7th row. Moving on to the 8th row, very simple. The first stitch is the edge stitch is purled, or it is just slipped off. Then we do 3 number of knit and then working 3 number of purl. Now again yarn backwards, 3 number of knit. 1, 2 and 3. Yarn forward, 3 number of purl. Yarn backwards, 3 number of knit. Yarn forward, 3 number of purl. Yarn backwards, 3 number of knit. 1, 2 and 3. Yarn forward, the edge stitch is going to be a purl. So our 8th row is complete. Our pattern is already looking beautiful. Now let's move on to the 9th row. Edge stitch is slipped off, 3 number of purl, yarn backwards, 3 number of knit. Pattern is very easy, just need to be careful in 2 of its steps. Yarn backwards, 3 number of knit. Yarn forward, 3 number of purl. Yarn backwards, 3 number of knit. Yarn forward, 3 number of purl. 1, 2 and 3, and the edge stitch I'm just going to knit. So that's our 9th row. Moving on to the 10th row, the first stitch is slipped off, then I'm working 3 number of knit and 3 number of pearl. Again yarn backwards, 3 number of knit, yarn forward, 3 number of pearl, yarn backwards, 3 number of knit, yarn forward, 3 number of pearl. So this row comes to an end. Now moving on to the 11th row, where we have to be careful again. The first stitch is slipped off and then I worked 3 number of knit. Now yarn forward, I slip the stitch off and then work 2 number of knits, and the slipped stitch is passed over the stitch ahead of it. Now again yarn forward, I'm working 3 number of knit. Yarn forward, I have slipped 1 stitch off, then I'm going to work 2 stitches together. Now I'll take the slipped off stitch and pass over the stitch that is ahead of it. Again yarn forward, working 3 number of knit, yarn forward, I'm going to slip 1 stitch off and work the 2 stitches together. Now the slipped stitch is passed over the stitch that is just ahead of it. Again yarn forward, working 3 number of knit, and the last stitch or the edge stitch is also going to be a knit. So this completes our 11th row. To be on the safer side, as I always say, it is better to count the stitches. We must have 23 stitches. Let us move on to the final row of this pattern. As this is a 12 row pattern, the first stitch is the edge stitch. I slip it off, then I am working 3 number of pearl, yarn backwards, 3 number of knit, yarn forward, 3 number of pearl, 1, 2 and 3, yarn backwards, 3 number of knit. When we knit, we have to be careful because there are the increased stitches or the loops, so we must work on it. We must not just let it off thinking, oh, what is this? So finally yarn forward, working 3 number of pearl, and the final stitch or the edge stitch is also going to be a pearl. So this completes our 12 row pattern. This is how it looks. I'm starting off again with the first row. I slipped 1 stitch off, then worked 3 number of knit, working 3 number of pearl, followed by 3 number of knit, yarn forward, 3 number of pearl. If you notice, you will see that the pearl stitches I am working on top of the knit stitches, and the knit stitches is being worked on top of the stitches that were purled earlier. The final set, that is 3 number of knit, and the last edge stitch is also going to be a knit. So this completes our first row. Moving on to the second row, first stitch is slipped off, then working 3 number of pearl, yarn backwards, 3 number of knit, again yarn forward, 3 number of pearl, yarn backwards, 3 number of knit. This is the sequence that is to be followed. And here working the last set, 3 number of pearl, and the edge stitch is also going to be a pearl. Now moving on to the third row, edge stitch is slipped off, working 3 number of knit, yarn forward, 3 number of pearl. This is the sequence. Working 3 number of pearl, and again followed by 3 number of knit, yarn forward, 3 number of purl, yarn backwards, 3 number of knit, 1, 2 and 3, and the last stitch is also going to be a knit. Let's move on to the new row. The first is the slip stitch, then followed by 3 number of purl, followed by 3 number of knit. This is the fourth row. Again I am working 3 number of purl followed by 3 number of knit. This is the sequence that is to be followed till the end of the row. This pattern is very beautiful and you can work straight away without working a rib, because the pattern does not curl upwards. That is the best part. So our fourth row is complete. If you look at the pattern carefully, we have reached the step where the shifting or twisting and the shifting has to take place. The first stitch is the edge stitch, then yarn forward, I slip 1 stitch off, working the 2 stitches together carefully and passing the slipped stitch over it. Then yarn forward, working a knit, again yarn forward, slipping the stitch off, working 2 stitches together, slipping the stitch over the stitch that is just ahead of it, again yarn forward, 3 number of knit. If you notice, the knit is being done on top of the purl stitches, again yarn forward, slip 1 stitch, working the 2 stitches together and passing the slipped off stitch over the stitch that is just ahead of it, yarn forward, working 3 number of knit, 1, 2 and 3, and again yarn forward, slipping the stitch off, working the 2 stitches together and then passing the slipped stitch over the stitch ahead of it and finally working the edge stitch. Now let's move on to the 6th row. The edge stitch is slipped off and then we are working 3 number of knit, 1, 2 and 3. Now yarn forward, 3 number of purl, 1, 2 and 3, yarn backwards, 3 number of knit, 1, 2 and 3, yarn forward, 3 number of purl, 1, 2 and 3. So this is the sequence that we are going to follow till the end. One thing I would like to tell you all friends, if you all have any project, cardigan project in future, do use this beautiful pattern and you do not have to work on the rib. You can straight away start off with the pattern and I promise you it is going to look beautiful. So our beautiful pattern comes to an end. So this is how it looks. Do use it in your projects, and as I always say friends, do not forget to share, subscribe and comment. Do hit the like button if you found the video interesting and useful. If you are new to our channel, do take a moment to subscribe and stay tuned for more of interesting videos in future. So till we meet again, it is bye-bye from all of us here at Plants, Crochet, Cooking and more. Bye-bye.